I get it when a friend says they're thinking about splurging on a business-grade NAS. The first thing I hear is, what if I'm paying a lot for something I'll barely use? It's a real worry, especially when the price tag is already in the four-figure range before you even add any hard drives. You want something that protects your data, moves files fast, and doesn't turn into a tech support nightmare. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. The Buffalo TeraStation 5420DN is aimed squarely at that sweet spot. Small to mid-sized teams that need a reliable, on-premise storage hub without hiring a full-time IT department. It's not a hobbyist gadget you'll stick on a shelf. It's a 4-bay desktop server that ships with 4 TB NAS-grade drives already set up in RAID 5, giving you about 12 terabytes of usable space right out of the box. That alone cuts down on the "do I need to buy drives separately?" decision that trips up a lot of first-time buyers. What makes the 5420DN feel a step above the generic home NAS is the combination of hardware and firmware that Buffalo markets as professional grade. The enclosure runs a dedicated processor and a custom OS that handles snapshots, encryption, and cloud sync without you needing to install extra software. In a real-world office, that translates to a few clicks for a point-in-time backup of a shared project folder, then the ability to roll back a file that was accidentally overwritten. I've seen that workflow in design studios where a single corrupted Photoshop file can send a whole day's work into a mess. The snapshot feature saves the day without requiring a separate backup server. Speed is another practical concern. The unit includes a native 10 GB Ethernet port, which means if your office already has a 10 GB switch, you're looking at transfer rates that make moving multi-gigabyte video files feel almost instantaneous. For a small marketing agency that routinely shares raw footage with 5 editors, that can shave hours off a workflow that would otherwise be bottlenecked by a 1 GB network. The catch? If your existing infrastructure is still on 1 GB, you won't see the full benefit, and you'd have to invest in new networking gear to unlock that speed. That's a hidden cost that can surprise buyers who just focus on the NAS price. Security is baked in, too. The TeraStation offers 256-bit AES encryption on the storage side, which is a requirement for many clients who handle sensitive data. The OS also supports user-level access controls, so you can give the graphic designer read-only rights to the client review folder while allowing the senior editor full write privileges elsewhere. In practice, this means you can keep your internal assets safe from accidental deletion while still collaborating smoothly. Cloud integration is another selling point. The device can sync folders directly to Dropbox, Amazon S3, Microsoft Azure, and OneDrive. If your team already backs up to the cloud, you can set it to mirror a critical folder nightly, creating a hybrid protection strategy: fast local access for daily work, plus off-site redundancy for disaster recovery. The downside is that the sync process isn't as granular as a dedicated backup software suite. You can't set versioning policies per file type, for example, so you'll need to rely on the built-in snapshots for more detailed recovery. Now, who should actually consider putting this machine on their desk? First, any small business that has at least 3 users needing simultaneous, high-throughput access to large files. Think video production houses, architecture firms handling BIM models, or a legal office with massive case files that must be searchable and protected. Second, organizations that need on-premise compliance. Some regulations still require data to be stored locally rather than purely in the cloud. Finally, teams that already have or are planning to upgrade to 10 GB networking will get the most bang for their buck. On the flip side, there are clear scenarios where the TeraStation would be overkill. A home user who just wants to stream movies or back up a few laptops can find cheaper, simpler options like a Synology DS220 Plus or even a consumer-grade external SSD. Likewise, startups that are still operating on a shoestring budget and don't yet have the network backbone to support 10 GB might end up paying for features they can't use. And if you're hoping for easy expansion beyond 4 drives, you'll be disappointed the chassis is fixed, and adding more capacity means swapping drives for larger ones, which can be a hassle if you're not comfortable with RAID management. Speaking of RAID, the 5420DN's default RAID 5 setup gives you fault tolerance against a single drive failure, but it's not a substitute for a proper backup strategy. RAID protects against hardware loss, not against accidental deletions or ransomware. The snapshot tool helps, but it's limited to the amount of storage you allocate for those point-in-time copies. If you're a user who expects the NAS to be a set-and-forget solution without any external backup plan, you could end up with a false sense of security. Another practical weakness is the learning curve. While Buffalo's interface is cleaner than some enterprise-level systems, you still have to